piece of meat?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Monday, moviegoers. Welcome to a brand new episode. Welcome to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I am your host, Juan, and I am joined by the cast, the crew, the guys. Ed.
Hey, what's up, folks?
Zach.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Craig.
What's poppin'?
And today, guys, we are here with a brand new episode. We're going to talk about The Whale, latest Oscar contender from A24 from 2022. Speaking of 2022, if you guys did not listen to last week's episode, go back and check out last week's episode. It was our highly anticipated best of 2022, top 5 plus 5 2022. Go back and listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts at facebook.com/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Twitter at Cine-Men405, or the email, which I'm going to read some emails a little bit later on today, cinemen921@gmail.com. You guys can find the links in all of those social medias on last week's episode. It was big. It was fun. Guys, we were able to develop and throw out all of our favorites and not so much favorites movies of 2022. So go back and check that episode out wherever you listen to podcasts. But how's everybody doing? Ed, you doing okay?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad at all. Can't complain. Yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good.
Another movie Monday, another review. Craig, what about you? Did you guys have a good Easter? I didn't even bring that fact up.
Easter.
Yeah,
I mean, I went and saw Mario on Friday, and then I got to go to the last regular season finale of The Thunder.
Oof, I thought you were about to say The Last Supper. I was like, whoa, who's leaving us?
I mean, the Thunder they're the 10 seed, so they're in the play-in. But hopefully they make it to a playoff series and get to see them one more time at the Paycom Center.
Paycom.
There you go.
Zach, what about you? How was the Easter Sunday for you, or Passover, or whatever you celebrate?
It was good. Pretty much just hanged out most of the day. Actually went and saw Air, the new Ben Affleck movie, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But other than that, it's pretty much a really laid-back Easter. What about you guys?
Did they play the song How to Breathe or Live with No Air? Isn't that the Jordan Sparks song?
You would think they would, but they didn't.
Yeah. Who directed that? Was that a Ben Affleck film?
Yeah, Ben Affleck movie.
I heard that was a really, really good movie so far.
That's
very, very good film. Very good film. I really didn't know. Go ahead, Ed.
Did they play the R. Kelly hit, I Believe I Can Fly?
No, they didn't.
No.
No, there was no R. Kelly in the movie either. I really didn't know a lot about the Nike deal and how Jordan got into that, but very eye-opening, very good. Obviously, a lot of talent involved. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Viola Davis, Chris Tucker, Jason Bateman. Highly, highly recommend it. On the other side of the spectrum,
you didn't have to mention the last two names. You said talent. You didn't have to mention those last two names.
On the other side of the spectrum, Craig, you went and saw Super Mario Brothers. How was that?
Rotten Tomatoes giving it a 48% or something like that.
You know what we say here, though. You know what we say.
Double birds.
Yeah.
I mean, they're giving it like a 48. Audiences are giving it 90-something%. I thought it was. There were a few things that I would have changed here and there, but it's Nintendo's first crack. Partnering with Illumination, putting something out. So, obviously the movie is doing something right. If it's the highest grossing animated film of all time, that's beating
Frozen 2?
Disney. Like anything. That's beating anything out there. So any animated movie you can think of, Toy Story 4, Disney, Frozen, Moana, beat all of them. So
Yeah,
Anime movies, even like all that.
pretty massive.
I expect Nintendo to partner with Illumination and roll out more.
Yeah, that's a pretty massive opening. I think it even beat out John Wick Chapter 4, knocked it out of its first place seat. So,
I mean,
Yep.
every movie theater that I was looking at, because I was like, okay, I'll go. I had tickets for Friday, and I was like, well, if it's coming out Wednesday and Thursday, I'll see if I can find a seat there. By the time they came around, like that day of, it was sold out. And you couldn't.
Oh, wow.
There were people coming into AMC trying to get seats for the showtime before and after mine, and they were turning them away because it was sold out.
Wow.
speaking of seats, guys, I don't know. One of us will go to this theater, this AMC, or Craig. Are you AMC or are you Regal?
I'm AMC.
We don't do movie news on this podcast anymore for rightful reasons, but I did read this the other day, and I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention since we all do go to the movie theater. What did you guys think of AMC putting stadium prices like the way you can buy the better seat is going to be more expensive than say a seat way close up front of the screen?
I think it's laughable.
Yeah.
It won't last. It won't
I heard-
last.
I heard
It
that they're
won't
going to
last.
start that this summer.
It's laughable. If somebody is getting on, say Guardians is the perfect example. Guardians tickets drop at 8:00. If I'm on at 8:00, I shouldn't have to pay more for the center seat if I'm the first one getting there.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, like how much of a difference is it going to, and that I think will be the big thing that kills it. If it's like $1 to maybe even $5, I think some people will be like, you know what, fine. But if it goes from like your front seat being, I don't know, $12 to your farthest back seat or your best known seats being like $35, $40, then no, that's going to die very quickly. But if it's like, I don't know, $15 for your worst seat and $22 for your best, it might survive a little bit, but it's not going to do that long.
Well, and to me, it's just like I'm not a middle row person, so I mean, I don't really care. So it's just, this is just another attempt for these companies to take back control of the movie theaters like situation. And it's just like, no, it's just like if you raise these prices, more people are going to just wait for it to go. I mean, I'm sure Super Mario is this is Universal Illumination. I'm sure it'll be on Peacock within the next like 2 months. If you just wait 2 months, it'll be on there. So
no, and you know these theaters have to be careful. Like inflation's going up. Who knows? The U.S. dollar's crashing. Who knows where things are going? You continue to put these prices further and further up, which they're already about $7-8 more expensive than they were back in 2011.
sure.
Alongside with concession prices, you're instead of making money, you're going to drive more people away, essentially losing money.
Because I mean, it might take a while, but you got to look at like cable versus streaming and all that. Streaming is not going to be a heck of a lot less, but it is still probably less depending on what you have.
Yeah.
So I mean, people will start going to cheaper theaters and all that just for their entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we've installed what I think there's 2 new theaters here: the Brew House and another one called Flicks or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're offering unlimited popcorn for $8. They're offering unlimited drinks for $6 or something like that. That's beating AMC's $19-something for a popcorn and a drink, and it's beating Regal's $17.50 for a drink. You know what I mean?
And that's even
and they're offering full bar. It looks like their food is better. From what I've heard, it is better. So they got to be careful.
I mean, that's the thing that, I don't know if y'all been told this. I always was told.
That's kind of the thing that just irritates me right there for a second. I mean, some of these theaters are like Craig said, I think they have to be careful, but like, you're turning in a 2-hour event to then turning into like a 3-4 hour event with all the popcorn buckets and $20, Craig, you said, for just a drink and a popcorn. these other theaters are offering better food, more restaurant quality food,
Yeah.
and if it's a lot cheaper, then like, man, that's. But again,
Well,
who wants to go spend 6 hours with a dinner and a movie at the actual theater? I don't know.
but that's
I'm
the
kind of like
problem though.
tossed up. I'm kind of tossed in between.
But that's the problem though. Super Mario Brothers is an hour and 30-minute movie. Depending on where you go, you're going to get like freaking 40 minutes of previews, and that bumps it up to almost a 2 hour, 2.5 hour event. So I'm just like,
And then
why?
that right there kicks it. Another part, whether it's going to be an in-game or a Titanic, or if it's going to be, a kids movie, are the stadium prices going to still be, all that fluctuating? Like, that's another part.
Yeah, I'm
Because
sure.
some of these parents aren't going to want to pay, that have 2, 3, 4 kids aren't going to want to pay, $20 a kid, and then I'm $30 because I'm an adult. Just that, okay? What because I thought it was the tickets supplied the movie, and the concession supplied the theater. Is what I always thought.
It's just another wannabe move on these corporations' attempt to try to take back the movie going experience, and it's just like it. I mean, I agree with you, Craig. If they're not careful, these little I'm just gonna call them mom and pop theaters like Flicks Brew House, and like they're not main company theaters. They're gonna last instead of these big companies.
Hey, but those big companies can take that hit harder.
No, not necessarily. AMC's already struggling.
So is Regal.
Yeah, these theaters, it's their thought process is, well, if we're struggling to make money, let's just raise the ticket prices. Like,
you guys know, but I mean, you guys know who's not struggling here in the city, and I don't know why they're not. I mean, they're busy on weekend nights, but other than that, like Harkins Theater here in the metro locally, you can go see their movies for $7 before 6 p.m. and their popcorn and a drink is still like less
reasonable.
than $20. Yeah, it's like $15 for a loyalty cup and a popcorn, and like $7 for a movie ticket. And then if you want to go see it at the Cinema Capri, which is like their IMAX, it's not as big, it's not as fancy, but that's only $12.
It's only $1. It's only $1 more add on to the original price. But Harkins doesn't have like the loyalty club where you see like 3 movies a week or nothing like that, do they?
No, they don't have.
They don't have anything like that, but they have like a loyalty thing where you can pay $24 and get a free medium popcorn every time you go. They have the loyalty cup, which is $7, and then it's only
like
$1.50 for a refill. So I mean, every time I go, even if I forget my popcorn shirt or if I forget my cup, I still spend less than $30 there, and that's with 2 or 3 tickets and popcorn and a drink.
And they've been doing that since the beginning. Like I remember having the Harkins shirt, and you get like a free medium popcorn or whatever, and it's just like, those. I mean, it wasn't saved a lot of money, but it definitely saved on concessions. And it's just like,
and it's only I don't know why that theater gets kind of a knock here locally. When you talk about the top 3 or top 4, it's always like the bottom tier. But like for my buck, it's always clean. The screen, the sound is good, and then the price is like top tier. I mean, I
think it could be surrounding.
I can go see. I can go see a movie for 2 people less than $15.
And they also have, depending on the time of the year, they also have like early showings, like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you want to get it over with, you can.
And then compared to like their mainstay is out in Arizona, and like they do stuff corporate wise like throughout the whole summer, like outside movie deals. Of course, it's over there, but it makes company for the money. It's where like AMC struggling, Regal struggling sometimes. So I don't know. I do think it's going to be interesting this year to see what the movies do without maybe some of the big top tier box office attractions that they've had in the past, and then with some of the Marvel movies, and then maybe with some of the Marvel movies kind of tearing down. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. We have Tinseltown, which is a part of Cinemark. And I think that's one of the only few Cinemarks that we have in the city. I think it is the only one. The other one's in Tulsa.
Yeah.
But I know it's gimmicky, but it's an attraction. They aren't partnered with anybody to bring exclusive popcorn buckets, exclusive cups, exclusive merch. Like, one of the big things about AMC for me is I know every time I go to a big movie, I'm going to be able to get some type of bucket, which I have a closet full of them. I'm going to be able to get some type of bucket. Sometimes there's a coin or a collectible movie ticket. And for somebody who obviously collects a lot of shit, it appeals to me, and Harkins just doesn't have that extra. Like, yes, the ticket prices are good, but if I'm paying the $20 for A-list and I'm able to go see my movie for free and maybe pay one more ticket for Mallory, and I'm able to go in there and get all this collectible stuff, and I can be like, man, I remember I went and saw this movie and I got this popcorn bucket, and it was a
Right, but
great
you're one of the few fans who still enjoy getting the physical collector's edition stuff.
yeah,
Who's
true.
probably keeping these AMC people alive. So you're okay with spending $60-$75 at the movie theater.
No.
Hold on.
I spend like $30. That's about it.
I'm talking about like maybe a month. Say if Black Panther and Top Gun came out in the same month, you would go spend about $60-$70 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're okay with that, but like I'm saying, for the average everyday moviegoer who just wants to see once or twice, maybe 3 times a month, it's a nice little interesting topic, and we'll get on to the next subject. But I think there's definitely more to be discussed here pretty soon. But let's get into today's movie. Today we are talking The Whale. We are talking A24's latest award-winning episode or movie. A reclusive, morbidly obese English teacher attempts to reconnect with his estranged teenage daughter. Directed by Darren Aronofsky, written by Samuel Hunter, starring Brendan Fraser, Sadie Sink, Ty Simpkins, Hong Chow, Samantha Morton. It won 2 Oscars, and I believe it was nominated for 3, right, Zach?
Yeah, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, and Best Makeup Hairstyling. He agrees.
He does. So let's kind of get into it. Zach, we'll start with you first. This was your seen it in the theaters, obviously.
Yeah.
What did you think of it the first time you watched it compared to the recent watch for the episode?
Going into it, I really, obviously, the main attraction was Brendan Fraser, just kind of seeing what his performance was, getting all this acclaim and recognition and everything. And so I'm just like, there's that aspect of it. Walking out, man, I emotional terrorism on the highest level. It's not a film that definitely, it's nowhere near a feel-good movie. It's not a movie that you may never ever want to watch again. And that's typical A24 fashion. It definitely fits that persona. But I respect this movie a lot for what it was trying to do, or what it did and what it accomplished. And I know it's definitely going to be a turnoff for a lot of people. We'll talk about that. But to me, I just thought the movie hit all cylinders, and I thought it was really worthy of all the acclaim and recognition it was going to get, whether it be Oscars or whatever it is. What about you, Craig? I think we talked a little bit about it last week, and this was not at all what you thought this movie was going to be, and what was your first initial thoughts on
it? Yeah, without saying too much, from what I had heard, Brendan Fraser and everybody else who talked about the movie kind of talk about it, I thought it was going to be a little bit different. It was definitely A24 vibes. I think my initial thought of what the movie was going to turn out to be and what it actually ended up being, I think maybe threw me for a loop. So I didn't really I finished it and I was like, Okay, like okay, that's pretty much it. I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. I get what they were trying to do. I understand, and I appreciate that. Um, which I'll talk about that more in depth when we get to that point. But I do have some positives about this movie.
Ed?
Um, didn't really know what I was expecting. Walked in blindly. Brendan Fraser, Sadie Sink. I knew they were in here. Other than that, that's all I really knew. I didn't know much about the story except for it was a very big guy. So I didn't know if it was going to be like a horror film, a feel-good movie, like it was kind of movie, a kind of tragic story, I guess. Didn't know much, so I wanted that because I was wanting to appreciate the story overall as well as the characters, interactions, and stories. So, how about you, Juan?
My first initial thought was I kind of knew where this film was going, but the second time viewing it today, I kind of felt more like who's to blame in this situation. Like the way the director made it seem was like the daughter was more of the person who should be ashamed here. But after watching it today, and I don't know, this might open up a whole brand new bag of tricks and ponies, but I really kind of felt some negativity towards Brendan Fraser's character. I was, after watching it and really dissecting the film today, I was brought to the realization of like, I feel like he's kind of a piece of shit, and that's what I'm going to leave this stand here today, and we can kind of get into it. What do you guys think? Am I being too
Um,
harsh?
no, I'm on the same page as you.
I'm about
Um,
I'm about to a point there, not 100%, but like
so
65.
I don't I don't blame somebody for feeling some type of way if their marriage isn't working. I don't blame them for seeking out somebody to actually go out and have a life to live. But in the process of leaving your child, which Sadie Sink really hits the nail on the head, she was like, essentially, you left me for him. And at that point, like, she puts it all on the table. You're a piece of shit for leaving me to chase your love life when you had a family. Like, you can still make it work. You don't just have to drop me off and leave me for dead just because you found somebody else that wasn't mom. And I that's why I agree with you.
Or kind of not going through the exact same thing, but also going through like something to where you know, yeah, the kids are the most important thing, and am I going to take care of this person's mental, stable of not being in a relationship anymore that's toxic? Uh, yeah, he did just drop off the child and completely forget about him, and even in the movie, he's like, "I fell in love." Yeah, you can do that, but you still have to put your kid or kids at priority.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking and watching the the film. Nothing against from Darren Aronofsky, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Zach, help me for God's sake. Um,
Darren Aronofsky. Yeah.
he's done some amazing movies. I like a lot of his movies. I like this one. This was in my top 5 of 2022 last week. So it sounds like I'm harping on the movie when I'm really not. Um, I just I thought Brendan Fraser's character, his performance, first off, is by all means great. We're gonna rapid fire through our top 5 later on in the episode. Top 5 Brendan Fraser films are coming at the end of the episode. Rapid fire. We're gonna go through all of them. The Well is not my number 2 on that list. Spoiler alert. We don't do that, but I'm telling you, it's number 2 on that list. It was in my top 5 last week of 2022. So I don't hate this movie, but after watching it, I feel no sympathy for Brendan Fraser's character, uh, Charlie, in the movie. And the spotlight, I know everybody's like obsessed with Brendan Fraser. He's had this resurgence. This performance was remarkable, and don't get me wrong, it was. But somebody who's not getting talked about, Hong Chow, who played
Yeah.
Liz, unbelievable performance in this movie.
Yeah.
I think she deserved the award way more than Jamie Lee Curtis did. Zach, what do you think? And Zach, kind of talk to me about what do you think of me and Craig's analyst of Charlie in this movie?
Well, this is a situation where I don't disagree with you guys. I get your point of this character. I mean, you could really melt this down as he's a terrible human being, and I obviously I don't have kids, so I can't really attest to this. But
right, I wanted to interject. Me and
Yeah.
Johnny probably feel this way because we do have kids.
Right. And so I'm coming at this at a different angle. So I don't have kids, but I do know, like, if I did have a daughter or a son, I would definitely want to be in their life, regardless of whatever marriage or relationship situation there is. At the same time, on the opposite side of the coin, I think Charlie knows that he's done wrong, and he's well, that's not the right word. He's definitely self-punished himself by getting to that level of obesity, and just the scenes in this movie where he's like binge eating to the point where he's like throwing up.
Yeah.
I get why the director put that in there, but at the same time, it was like, I don't ever want to eat food for the next like 6 hours. But I really do appreciate Charlie's redemption story in this. Of like, yeah, he fucked up. He's trying to get back into Sadie Sink's life, Ellie's life, and it's just, don't get me wrong, Ed. I'm sure you'll agree with me. Sadie Sink, I've seen her in talk shows. She's an incredible, lovely person. Love her on Stranger Things. She is like the mom said, she is a fucking terror in this movie. I'm just to the point where I'm just like, I get why she's angry, but to get to that point of basically saying, I hope you die just where you sit. When he's just trying to be in his life and say, in her life and say, I'm sorry.
Well,
it just,
but at the same time, like, you could have been in my life the last 15 years.
I know. It's just one of those, it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't type things.
So, I think the point that also isn't being touched on, because not defending Charlie at all, but there are two people that made that girl. There are two people. And in a big argument at the end, she says, she adored you. And I just couldn't she basically couldn't settle with herself that girl adored the father more than she did that mom. So you actually let that child away. And I'm not saying that basically saves Charlie's ass.
Mom's a piece of
not
shit
at all. Yeah. But I'm just like, the reason this child, don't get me wrong, Sadie Sink, I think, is kind of untalked about as well, because she did wonderful. Like, she was pissing me off a lot through this movie, but I'm just like, I get it. Like, I fucking get it. But I've seen some of this in ways, personally, not through me and this happening to me, but this happening on another side of very personal stuff. So anyways, when that person who has full custody is villainizing the shit out of somebody else, undeservedly or deservedly, you are not giving an opportunity for them to understand their parents. So you are furthermore forcing that child into a deeper hole of little hell, for that matter.
Right, but in this situation,
he left. Yeah, 100%.
I would be the mom. I would be villainizing the shit out of him too. Like,
but don't get me wrong. Could you villainize your wife at the same moment?
If she left us on her own free will and didn't want anything to do with my child,
but
I would blackball the shit out of her.
So the thing is, you just said a big thing. Didn't want anything to do with the child. He did message and everything. So
after how long though?
But That's true, and we don't know that fact. It could have been the week after.
One
It
of-
could have been the day after. It
I
could have been
think
6 years.
I think it was a period of time, and I only think he tried to reach out once he lost Alan.
But at the same time, the maturity level of both parents is horrible right there.
No,
Because
I'm not going to
yes,
subjugate. I'm not going to subjugate my daughter to the level of, oh, you're only reaching back out because the person you left us for is gone, and now you're trying to fill that void with somebody
but you're going to
else.
accept money. You're going to accept help from that person too, though.
The mother never knew
Never knew what.
that he was saving money for her. Oh no, she knew, but he didn't know she was getting it.
Right.
Then.
It sounds like an episode of Judge Joe Brown.
But what I'm saying though is that's
Don't come after me with this.
but it's a hell of an immature thing because that's a whole personal level. So I've seen one parent victimized or villainized by the other, and I've seen the after effects it has. I've seen that 100% hands down.
One of the other things that kind of put Charlie in like a negative light to me though was like he had all this money saved up. Yeah, it was for his daughter, and he didn't tell anybody about it. But his friend who is working 12, 14 hours a shift at the hospital,
Right.
Car broke down, walking through snow.
Who comes over and takes care of him just to make sure.
Not just the friend, she was Alan's
the sister.
Alan's
of
sister,
Alan's
yeah.
sister, yeah.
So like she's completely in the dark about the money too, and like he not only he had all this money to get himself taken care of, and he went through a divorce. He lost custody of his child. He fell in love. He lost the relationship with him. He let himself completely go, and ended up having all this money to. Even though he let himself go, he had all this money to take care of himself, and still didn't want. He ended up putting himself there. It's a sad story and it's a sad movie, but this second time around watching it, I didn't have that much sympathy this time for Charlie like I did in the first view.
Nah, I got that shit right off the bat. Can't fool me.
No, yeah, because that the person he did the dirtiest probably was the sister or whatever. Next, right up there is Sadie. Right after that, but then again, that to me, seeing a few things from my angle as well, like the mother did Sadie pretty damn dirty too.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I agree with you. I think his sister Liz technically is the sister. She was there for him every day. Probably wasn't getting paid much, if at all.
Probably not.
And was literally doing everything for him. And he never once was like, "Hey, I have this large amount of money saved up. I want to do something nice for you." And he was like, "If you would have told me, I would have fixed your car." She's like, "Would you have really?" It's like, "No, you wouldn't have," because he had so much guilt after losing Alan. He kind of finally realized, like, damn, I really messed up. That he did put himself in that spiral. And that is one thing that I do applaud this movie for, is showing the spiral that people can go in and they don't even realize it. Like, he was on the brink of death and not knowing it. And that's the self-hate that people go through. At some point, every single one of us in here has gone through some sort of self-hate where you're just like, I can't believe you've done that. You talk to yourself stupid. And it's just something that it's a natural feeling that people go through. But it's the light that they were able to shine on it, that sometimes you don't understand just how far you've let yourself go. And it's this movie is the sort of showing of how far it can get.
What did you guys think of because sometimes with an A24 movie, the movie title itself seems a little far-fetched, like Men, Spring Breakers. Some of it's really easy, but then some of it's like, why are they naming the movie this?
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. With the whale, what did you guys think? Did you guys think, are they calling it the whale? What was that?
That's really loud.
Somebody use a fire extinguisher?
Go in there, please.
Anyway, do you guys think that when you first saw the title of the whale, did you think they were naming it the whale because of how massively big the guy was? Come to find out, when you watch the movie, it's about the
story
essay,
of Moby Dick.
The essay, yeah. Zach, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I
Or
think
Craig?
it's kind of a play on words. I think, you know, essentially he does. If I remember the story right, he kind of feels like he is the whale in that situation, and I can't think of the words to go along with my theory of this, but the story was going along with how when he saw the whale, everything was kind of let go. If I'm Zach, you might help me out here if you
Well,
understand where I'm going.
so literally, okay, so we don't understand this until later on, but the story is by Ellie, for that matter. The
Right.
essay is written from Ellie, so it already garners a huge connection in his heart. He's a professor of English
English.
professor, so you know he's very subjective to what he reads and all that comprehension and grammar, all that kind of the good stuff. Not only that, but the story touches him because he says in his own words at least 6 or 7 times that essay is perfect. This is the best essay I've ever read, and all that. And dude literally grades essays on the regular of college students, and this is probably from his daughter in middle school. So
Mhm.
there's that. But at the same time, he kind of pictures himself in this story as maybe not necessarily the well, but the boring time in the story. Maybe he is the whale in his own picture just because, that's what the director's chasing after, and that's what he's chasing after is that whale. So, there's several points you can make in this whole entire film of what could possibly be going on for it.
Yeah. So the portion of the essay that kind of gets the most screen time is, and I felt saddest of all when I read the boring chapters that were only descriptions of whales, because I knew that the author was just trying to save us from his own sad story just for a little while. So I do think it is
Yeah.
kind of like a double entendre about like him, but also him feeling like he is the whale, because it
Yeah,
is a sad story, and just kind of playing
he's
along.
in his own thought, he's got a tragic story because
Yeah.
he did a lot of wrong in his life, and he understands that, knows that, and accepts that. But at the same time, wrong has happened to him in the form of taking Alan, for that matter, when at a time he should have been happiest or should have been, you know,
So
at a peak.
let's talk about some of the ratings here. IMDb gave this a 7.7, Rotten Tomatoes at 64%, the Metascore is at 60%, while the Google users like it at 88%. It only had a $3 million budget, but it grossed over $55 million at the box office. What do you guys think when it comes to a movie like this? Do you think this is like one of those word of mouth movies, or did it? Because I didn't. The only thing that drew me to it obviously was A24, and then when I saw Brendan Fraser was going to be part of it, it was like, oh, he's back.
I think the biggest part is Brendan Fraser. I mean, in all honesty, as well as word of mouth, and then probably people like you, for that matter, that are huge in the A24. But yeah, Brendan Fraser, I think, would probably be at least 50-60% in my honest eyes. So
Yeah, I probably would have never taken a second look at this. With Brendan, I mean, Brendan Fraser kind of came back from nowhere. I mean, he was in, a couple TV shows, Doom
Killing of the
Patrol.
Flower Moon, I think.
That comes out later this year, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
But I mean, he's been in Doom Patrol since 2019, but he's kind of really, make-upped up in a robot suit. But just him kind of having that lead role again kind of intrigued me. But the main thing was just the hype that was kind of around him and his. I'll say the biggest thing that made me even want to remotely watch this outside of us doing it for the podcast was his speech, where he was just falling and in tears about the whale, and how he said, this meant the world to him that he was able to get this role and the story and everything. And I'd say that was what really made me want to watch this.
yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a combination of like pretty much what all of y'all said. Just Brendan Fraser's return to acting, A24, just see where this kind of fits in their catalog of what they do as a film studio. and just kind of all the buzz and the reception of, is he going to win Best Actor? Is this, I think this movie came out in September at one of the film festivals. He got like a 10-minute standing ovation. I'm just like, damn, okay, let's see, and what a perfect Christmas movie. This came out for Christmas here in Oklahoma. And to me, it, again, like I said, this is very, like you said, Craig, it's very A24 vibes all over this movie, to the point where it's just like, I think people that, and we can talk about this, I think people that like are in fit and like stay active and everything, I think they're going to watch this movie and say like, yeah, he deserved that. He did it to himself. So, it's just, it's kind of like one of those, do you have sympathy for this character or you don't, given everything that's happened to him?
I think some of it is more emotional than that, though, just because there are a lot of scenes to where he gets pushed mentally and emotionally that do weigh, for that matter. Pun. Yeah.
No,
pun not intended.
Zach, where I'm going to kind of take off from what you were saying is, if people only see this and see him as a heavyset person, they're shallow. If they look deeper and see the true meaning of what the director's trying to fully accomplish with this, that yes, choices lead to other choices, and then those choices lead to other choices, and then it just snowballs, and before you know it, you're on the brink of death. Yes, some people are lucky enough to not have to go through that stuff. And yes, this is showing sort of a different direction of how people deal with their depression. But this form of depression is a real form of depression. And I think, if you come into it and all you see is some guy in a fat suit not even making fun of it, but kind of just talking about somebody who is obese, and that's all you get from it, then you're not a person that I really want to be associated with. There's an art to this movie, and that's what I appreciate about it. Is it's really telling something more than a story. And that's what
you appreciate about it.
That's what films are about, is telling more than just a story.
Yeah. Because, this story has so many more elements other than just dude being big.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Which I will say, though, if I'm not mistaken, I know this is talking on it, but the fat suit was like, what, 300 and some odd pounds itself?
Yeah.
On top of him?
It was basically a suit that it kind of like, the director wanted to put as much weight on him as obviously as he could possibly stand, and it was just kind of like, I think it was like a 4-hour process to get in and out of the suit, and there's also some kind of like some visual effects. That just kind of touch it up. But like when the first time he stands up, you're just like, damn, and you're just like, ooh, you're just like, wow, it just could have shocked you by surprise.
Oh, no, 100%. Because, the way he looks was, and I'm not even meaning like size as in like weight-wise, but he looked massive.
Yeah.
Like, he looked very tall when he stood up for the first time. And, I don't know if it's maybe because of her small stature compared to his larger stature or what, but, like, he looked huge, just, like, towering above her. And then once you kind of, with the Zoom call with his students, for that matter, you kind of, is that what we come up on? Yeah, that's what we come up on at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it just kind of does like a his
webcam is off.
Yep.
Yeah. He's in a Zoom meeting and he's the only one. And, he tells them that his webcam is broken and he's not able to get it fixed, or he's in the process of doing it. And there's times where people are insecure about how they look and how they feel, and that's everybody. Whether you're 98 pounds and you feel like you're a bit anorexic, or you have that I don't want to know what to classify it.
Anorexia.
Or you feel like you're a bit overweight. Everybody has insecurities in their life. No matter, you could be the fittest dude on the planet, and you're going to sit there and tell yourself you don't look as good as you could. It doesn't matter what physique your body is.
And some people, that is why they're that fit. For some people, is because they are chasing that perfection, and it's that littlest thing of, I don't have 6-pack or that, extra bit, so my obliques aren't showing as good as they were yesterday, or something. To where on the other side of that,
everybody deals with something. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Yeah, it's definitely a mental thing, 100%.
And it's natural.
Now,
Sometimes, yeah.
Now obviously there are so many powerful moments in this movie. I mean, like the scene where he's talking to the mom and said, where he just finally has his breakdown and says, "I just want to do something right with my life before I go." That to me, I think that's pretty much what won him the Oscar for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other scene where, like what you're talking about, Craig, when he's talking with his students and he got so fed up with all the bullshit and all this like the fake writing, just say, you know what? Just write something real. Just tell me one real thing.
Yeah.
And when he finally reveals himself on the camera, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It kind of is funny at that, because he's like, F the readings, F the essays, and
like,
just write me, something like real.
Yeah.
That's your last lesson or whatever. And it's just like, dang, okay, like, is it because you're passing soon, or is it because you're just fed up, or
I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
When people feel like they're at their end of the road, they truly don't care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
luckily I haven't had anybody in my life get to that point that I was close enough with, but the signs are there. If at the end of the road, they're literally just unfiltered.
Well, I mean, like so a lot of this pointing towards, and what they mentioned, was congestive heart failure, for that matter.
Right.
And the wheezing in his lungs,
Don't forget the F.
The what?
Don't forget the F. Wheezy F, baby.
Oh.
Sorry, Lil Wayne reference.
It's just like, what? God dang it. But, the little things in mental, or his overall health, that were just spiraling downward, and it was just kind of like, okay, this isn't a if, this is a when scenario.
Yeah.
And
I like how the movie takes place over a week, starting from Monday to Friday. And Friday is basically the end of his life. And it doesn't, you could really draw this out to like a month or whatever, but I thought it was a very creative choice to say he has 1 week to live. He's trying to, quote unquote, get his affairs in order. He's trying to reconnect with his daughter and just try to do everything, everything we talked about, all the wrongdoing he's done, and just try to redeem himself. So
he's trying to be everywhere, everything all at once.
Stupid.
Another portion, which I may not have the best of grasp on this, but when they're talking about Liz's hatred towards the church, I'm not 100% sure what the church essentially was. Like, what was it, like Mormon, or and it doesn't really matter, but the fact that he is essentially, he's gay, and his lover Alan died, and he has this hatred towards the church and towards God, because he feels like that's part of the reasons why he died. And I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember what he died for or from.
He took his own life. His dad really tried to push him into being in the church, get married to a Christian girl, and he just didn't want any of that, obviously. Until finally to the point where I think the dad just ostracized him out of the family, out of the church, and everything.
Well, yeah. I just want to touch on that. If you watch this movie and you don't know a whole bunch about faith or religion, I'm not going to sit here and preach or force anything on anybody, but not all religions are the same. And just because you're in a quote unquote church or religion doesn't mean that person is 100% true. Like, you can meet somebody who's barely in church or barely has a relationship with God, and they'll treat you better than somebody who claims to be quote unquote Christian. There's wolves in sheep's clothing. And there's truly authentic people in church and out of church, and you just have to weed out the ones that aren't worth your time.
Well, and that's the other thing. Yeah, I'm gonna jump off that with you, Craig. There's a lot of anti-religious themes in this movie, definitely, especially from the point of Ellie's perspective and Liz's perspective, to the point where Ty Simpson's character is kind of I don't want to say he's bullied, but he's definitely pushed into a position where he has his way of how his B plotted. Like he took money from the church, all this and that, and in a very like hilarious black comedy type way of Charlie kind of realizes like Ellie wasn't trying to hurt that character. He was trying to help him in his like her own like sadistic way, you know.
Which I mean, I will say it is kind of his doing as well because he stayed there. So as a grown adult, like you have that option to leave and not come back. But as he put it, he needs help. Charlie needs help.
Thomas was the kid, the church kid's name. I blinked off for a second.
Thomas did get bullied to an extent, I will say that. But at the same time, as a grown adult, you do have the ability to get up and leave whenever you want, you know, whatever situation. But at the same time, he said he was staying because Charlie needed help.
Did anybody else think this was going to be true A24 fashion? And did you think Charlie was going to fuck?
Yeah, I thought for a while, for like at least 2 minutes, that Charlie was going to get killed by Thomas.
Well, no, I didn't think Thomas was going to kill Charlie. I thought Charlie was going to rape Thomas.
No,
I didn't. It was already.
I thought he was going to feed him. I thought he was going to feed him the whale.
I didn't have any rapey vibes. I do think that Charlie might have felt some sort of connection. Granted, I don't remember how old Thomas was. I don't know if he's overage or underage, but
I would say overage.
Look, it's A24. Nothing's really off the table. Let's be honest.
Dude, no, I thought Thomas was going to kill Charlie. Because
I did think that for a second.
Once they got into it, once like Charlie got the wheelchair and he started going up to him, I legitimately was just like, oh, here we go. I was like, great.
Because you weren't really sure what he was doing. You know, he was snooping in the room and looking at everything. Is like, okay, you know, there's enough space for me to try and stay here. So I had an idea that he was trying to find something. I just didn't know until we found out, obviously.
What I really thought in A24 fashion, what I really thought was going to happen was Ellie was going to kill Charlie because when she's at in the kitchen making that sandwich, she's like grinding the knife in the countertop. It's just like, oh my god, like to the point where it's like, is this how this is going to end? Like the daughter's going to kill the father.
Like that one, yeah.
That's the director's cut.
Yeah.
That's the whale edition.
The whale edition.
And so, like, let's be real. So we get to the ending scene where, you know, Ellie's about to leave and she's reading the poem and he gets up and he starts walking to her. And then you see the bright light and I'm like, are we at the lighthouse again? Like, what's going on here? But like he dies. And I guess from the director's point of view, it feels like he was able to right enough of his wrongs and kind of make amends with Ellie and his wife to where he was accepted.
I think Charlie went to hell. I don't think he went to heaven.
But he got lifted up and it was a white light. I mean, if you were to say that somebody went to heaven, that's what I would assume you would see or show.
Sometimes a white light is right before you see the orange of fire.
I mean, other than that, you know, they should have been playing Slayer South of Heaven. For that
well, I mean, I'm only saying because, like, there's so many. If you want to take this movie and talk biblical, I mean, you know, you see Charlie go through gluttony. You see Charlie go through greed. You see Charlie go through lust. At the beginning of the movie, he goes through lust with the gay porn. There's a lot of stuff in the movie that
threw me off, by the way.
There's a lot of stuff in the movie that makes Charlie just look that way, and I'm like, I know it's Darren Aronofsky, and he's a one of a kind director and writer, but I didn't leave anything on the table on this second watch, and that's kind of just where I put Charlie in this conversation piece. So,
well, you know, everybody has. Again, you don't want to get biblical, but everybody has sin. Everybody has some type of addiction. Everybody has some type of something that is considered sin in the Bible. And so in order to you sit here and you're able to portray that in somebody's life because we're getting an inside look of it for a week straight. You know, it's just the way this movie was portrayed. I think it was very artistic, and I just think there's more to it than the story itself.
Does anybody want to name off some favorite scenes?
Oh, Zach didn't like what I said.
Favorite scene would have to be the very end between Sadie Sink and Brendan Fraser, Ellie and Charlie. Just the reading and all that of the essay was made to be very powerful, as well as did feel that way. So I'll say that to me was probably especially with him getting up walking. That was the sealer for me.
Yeah. I mean, that scene was pretty powerful he never does that. Who knows how much stress it was actually putting on his body. But for him to, at that point, again, having a child, I would do anything to prove to Adley that I feel a certain type of way. And for him to be able to, up to that point, always use a walker. And she's like, if you really feel that way, get up and stand and walk to me. And he does, and he tries. And of course, the first time he falls into the couch and he gets hurt. But like, if it was at that point, or I had to do something like that, and to prove something, I'm going to try everything, and everything in me is going to try it. So, but yeah, I agree with you. The favorite scene is probably going to be that ending scene where she's reading to him, and I mean, it's tense, it's powerful,
because
it's truly emotional.
Because if you look at it from what the character is thinking or seeing, that's probably the first time he's actually heard it from her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I'm sure, once she starts her writings and all that here in the next few years, you're going to hear, possibly a few papers here and there. But with that, being gone for at least, she was 8 when he left, 17, possibly 18 almost, so 9 to 10 years. I mean, that's got to do something, especially when you're really, really, really into literature and, essays and different things like that, papers and stuff. That's got to be something different. Yeah, hearing it from students and brilliant persons and all that you're helping cultivate for a future in this field is one thing, but your own offspring is another, and to see and hear what he or she, in this case she, had to say from their own mouth has to be a hell of a different side, to where, like, I'm sure if you hear a paper from anybody else, it's going to be like, oh, okay, cool, that's stupid or that's brilliant. But once you hear from her what is in her head or what's in her thoughts, you're going to be like, damn, man, like,
it's going to hit you a little different.
Yeah, whether it's great or bad is just like, okay, we can work with this, kind of thing.
Zach, you're not upset at what I was saying, were you?
No, the internet went out, so
because I finished my sentence and you were just like,
and it just boom.
Like, yeah.
No. What'd you say? I cut out and I didn't get to hear it.
So we're both kind of going on the ending scene for our favorite scene. Like when he was hearing the essay from his daughter for the first time, and then walking and all that for the first time in the film, at least, on his own accord. So,
yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would agree that the ending scene is probably the best scene of the movie. There are a lot of other like little tidbit moments, like in a weird like comedic, the dark comedy of this movie is like when he has like he's talking to the pizza guy. So yeah, I just left the 20 in the mailbox. Like, you okay, Charlie? It's like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
But it also kind of breaks your heart because when he kind of goes out, when the pizza delivery guy actually sees Charlie for the first time, it's just like, oh, you're just another, you're another person that's just gonna, because of the way I look, you're just gonna run away, basically.
Yeah.
If I had to choose a favorite scene, right off the top of my head, it would probably be, at least powerful scene is when the mom comes over and Charlie and the mom butt heads.
I knew it.
And then probably my other favorite scene would probably be the ending.
Yeah,
Because I mean,
one
go ahead,
of
Greg.
my, I said the ending was great, but one of my favorite scenes was the banter between Ellie and Thomas when she was like, you're not going to smoke. You're too much of a good boy. And he was like, no, that's one of my issues in the past was taking drugs. She's like, all right, well then smoke it. And then she takes the picture of him. That was just the banter between Ellie and Thomas was really funny because you weren't sure if Sadie was being or Ellie was being like sincere or she was like trying to manipulate or sadistic. Like her character was very mysterious in that way as far as like
I think it was kind of all of the above.
Yeah.
In essence, all of the above. I don't know.
She's a very layered character, and I think that's why whenever we're talking about characters that should have won stuff or been considered for stuff, I think it was her because of how truly layered that character was and how well she's able to put it on screen. She's not there for a long time, but I mean, when she's on there, she's definitely 1-1 with Brendan.
She's coming guns out, like she really is. Because I mean, honestly, like that's just I was irritated with her.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys really knew, like, kind of paid attention, but this movie was basically done in a completely one set environment. It was all throughout the apartment. I mean, you got a little bit of just on the porch right outside the apartment, but a majority, I mean, it was pretty much in Charlie's living room.
Yeah.
And I mean, for a director to get that type of performance out of someone in that just a one setting place is kind of it shows the markers of what a good director can do with his actors. So
I mean, 7% is in that room or in that apartment, but I'd say the other split 3% was the beach scenes and then the parking lot, and then other than that, like nowhere else.
Right.
Because you get a look into that one room in the far back, and that room is pristine.
Yeah.
Very, very well kept.
Star rating, Ed, we'll start with you.
Based on story, based on acting, I'm gonna have to go ahead and give it a 7. Like this one was very, very good. Watchability is what's going to go ahead and kick it down because, like Zach said earlier, I'm probably not going to watch it maybe one more time again, but other than that,
yeah.
Craig?
I enjoy the layers of what the director was trying to put on screen and the story that he was trying to tell. Again, Brendan Fraser really did take advantage of this role that he was given, or if he took it, however he got the role, he really took advantage of his opportunity. And to be able to put out a movie that was this well done with the low budget, the singular location, and there's really only 5 or 6 main characters that are in the story. It's a hell of a movie. But again, like you said, the rewatch isn't there for me. I personally was kind of waiting for it to be over. Not to say that it's not a good film, not to say that people can't enjoy it, but it was just, I thought whenever I was watching some of the stuff and what the movie was being talked about, that, he was big, he was lazy, and then he really worked on his life to stay in their lives. I thought he had made a life choice, and that's kind of the changes that came throughout the movie, not necessarily that he was just kind of setting up his last days as a person and getting all that in order. So that's where it kind of knocked it down for me, but I'm gonna give it a 6. Not to say that it's not a great film, but me personally, it's a 6.
Performance-wise, rewatchability with me, with it being like an hour and 40-something minute movie, even though the second time I watched it, it did kind of fly by still. There was a few scenes that kind of dragged for me, but overall for me with rewatchability, scenes, and the performances, I'm going to have to give it a 9. I think the thing that really saved this movie for me is probably going to be Brendan Fraser and the chemistry he had with the nurse. Um, and then the second time around that I was like you, Craig. I was like, man, I'm kind of dreading watching it again for the episode just because it was such a downer. Um, but the second time, like I said, I noticed a bunch of different things. The performances still kept me intrigued, and the hour and 40 some minutes just flew by for me the second time. So, Zach, what about you? For somebody who's seen this movie 3 or 4 times, what's your star rating?
I'm gonna give it a 10. I mean, truly, I think it's like I said, if I had it number 2 in our top 10 of the year of 2022, everything you guys said, the performances, the messaging of the story, the direction, I'll even put some of the cinematography. I thought it was quite interesting. I watched like the little featurette on the Blu-ray. It was interesting how they made like Sadie Sink's character Ellie kind of go all the way around the room when he's talking to him, so he had like a difficult time trying to look at Ellie. I thought that was a kind of a creative choice. The movie just hit me really on a deeper level, and maybe it was I saw it in the theater and I just had that like experience of seeing it in the theater. My Not to get too much into it, but my grandmother had congestive heart failure, and the scene where he's like looking out in the window and looking at the bird, it was just kind of like a little moment of happiness for him. That's what my grandmother did. So there was just a lot in the movie that kind of hit me on the feels, and so that's why I'm giving it a 10, just because it hit me on a personal level. So
Rapid fire top 5, guys. This week's top 5 was and is top 5 Brendan Fraser films. I'm rapid fire going to go through my honorable mentions: Journey to the Center of the Earth, Crash, and Bedazzled. My top 5 Brendan Fraser movies: 5, I'm going to go with Airheads. Number 4, Gimme Shelter. Number 3, Blast from the Past. Number 2, The Whale. And number 1, The Mummy. Zach?
I don't have any honorable mentions. My top 5 Brendan Fraser movies are number 5, Gods and Monsters. Number 4, The Mummy Returns. Number 3, George of the Jungle. Got to put that in there. Number 2, The Whale. And number 1, The Mummy. Craig, what about you?
Number 5, George of the Jungle. Number 4, Looney Tunes. Number 3, Dudley Do Right. Number 2, Airheads, and number 1, The Mummy.
Number 5, I'm going to go ahead and no honorable mentions. Number 5, George of the Jungle. Number 4, The Mummy Returns. Number 3, Cine-Men. 2, Airheads, and number 1, The Mummy.
Oh, wow. Universal number 1, The Mummy.
Consensus, man.
Yep.
It was that good, though.
Mummy's a damn good film.
Yeah,
especially Brendan Fraser. Like, he yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I got to rewatch it today after The Whale, and it was definitely a fun watch. So, next week though, we're talking all about Nicolas Cage's one of his latest movies, just in time before he's got another one coming out. Yeah, but next week we're talking The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Pedro Pascal is on a high rise. Nicolas Cage is always on the high rise. So why not talk about both of them next week in a brand new episode right here, episode 241, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Before we get out of here, before we get done dropping the whale off, do you guys have any final comments before we head out to Nick Cage? We got a 2-weeker with Nick Cage.
What's after next week?
Face Off.
Have we ever done a Nicolas Cage movie before?
So
I want to say no.
I don't think so. But we're going to do 2 of them back to back starting next week.
What's our top 5 next week?
I don't know. I don't know if we'll have one. I know in 2 weeks we're going to talk about our top 5 Nicolas Cage movies. So
There you go.
Any
Should be
mailbag
fun.
today, or
and then we can talk a few. Let's talk a few emails.
mail time, mail time, mail time?
Talk a few. Okay, Henry's top 5 movies of 2022 in this order: 5, Blonde; number 4, Top Gun; number 3, Avatar; number 2, Fantastic Beasts; number 1, Prey.
Now, Blonde received a lot of hate.
Oh, hate.
So
hate.
it's interesting.
Laura sent this email out. She says, "I've wondered if you guys ever thought about doing an Easter-like movie, especially since the podcast is on Mondays. Seems fitting having an Monday after Easter episode. Thoughts?"
I mean, we typically plan out months ahead. That wasn't one that we thought
Thought
of.
about doing.
Passion of the Christ.
The 10 Commandments, all 4 hours and 50 minutes of it.
I mean, I personally, I don't think I've ever seen Passion of the Christ. I was really too young when it first came out.
I've never completed it.
I know, like, you want to talk about hitting people in the feels. Like,
Yeah. I think that sounds like a fun.
I wouldn't classify that as fun.
Let's go ahead and plan that for next year, I guess.
Yeah.
I've never completed it.
Or we can do it on like Mother's Day or something. Or Father's Day. It's a good Father's Day episode, yeah. Kendall says, if there was one Marvel movie you guys could review that you haven't done yet, what would it be and why?
One Marvel movie that we haven't done.
I mean, if we're talking about like old school, I'd go X-Men.
We've already done X-Men, sir.
Yeah, we have.
I would do Civil War.
After 240 of them, you know. I'd say the first Iron Man. I think that'd be just kind of go back to basics and just remind to see where everything got started off.
I agree with Johnny. There's probably one further back. No, you know what? I'm going to go Fantastic Four. Old school Fantastic Four.
Oh, you know what? I think Craig just picked out an episode in May.
Chris Evans. Johnny Blaze.
Passion of the Christ and then Fantastic Four. What a great duo.
Oh, God.
Sarah 97 says The Well is so good but too depressing. Still good movie, 8 stars.
That's fair. That's fair.
Gabriel says The Well to me is a little overrated. Still great performances, but the movie was dull, 6 stars. Omar says the A24 episodes you guys have are always entertaining. It's a different conversation every single time with everyone always disagreeing with each other. What's another A24 movie you would want to review?
Haven't we done them all?
No. There's like 85.
I say we're pretty close. Off the top of my head, I can't.
We could do
We've done a pretty good library of it so far. I mean, you know, going from Marcel the Shell to Pearl and all that.
We could do The Monster. We could do Into the Forest.
That sounds intriguing.
You know what? We've never done a documentary. We could do a documentary about Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
Me, Amy.
Son of a Gun. The Captive, where Ryan Reynolds loses a daughter. So Life After Beth.
That's A24?
Yeah.
Dang, I didn't know that.
So there's still quite a bit, but you know what? August is right around the corner, and August means A24 month. So,
especially next year,
Red Rocket,
2024 August.
Rocket. Yeah, my dog has one of those.
Stop.
Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out!
I'll finish it off
Get
with
out.
this one, and then we'll go on to the next.
Did we ever do the Val documentary?
No.
Mm-mm.
I think Zach watched it.
Craig is right off. Craig is on fire today.
I'm on the money.
Jeffrey says, I've always looked forward to your Memorial Day episodes, especially being an active member. Any idea on the movie you guys will be reviewing this year? It's always my favorite episode of the year.
First off, free service.
That's a good movie, too.
I don't even know what that is. Thank you for the service.
There's a movie.
We are going to do a Memorial Day war movie this year, and we're going to do... Zach, do you remember what it is?
think we're going to do All Quiet on the Western Front, the new Best Picture nominee that won Oscars. So
That it's currently on Netflix. You guys can stream it on Netflix. That is going to be our Memorial Day episode this year. So yeah.
Thank You for Service looks good.
So yeah, I
by the
told
way.
you.
From the director that brought you American Sniper, which is also a good movie.
Very good.
We just got an email.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley Kubrick, good movie. Tom Cruise.
Paxo.
yeah, we've never done a Kubrick movie, have we?
We did Clockwork Orange, didn't we?
We did The Shining
Oh, The Shining. Yeah.
back in the day. That was episode number 2.
Yeah.
Talk about movies that could probably be rediscussed.
Yes, sir.
So,
Heck, Full Metal Jacket.
yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, very good one.
Other than that, guys, anybody else have any comments about The Well before we go on to Nicolas Cage 2-weeker?
Oh, a whole bunch of Nicolas Cage. I'll say that.
All I know about Face Off is the dancing scene where he's just in the priest outfit. Oh no! So like, my expectations are either too high or too low. I don't know. Johnny kind of set it off for me.
It's going to be fun. Face Off in 2 weeks. Next week, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That's going to be my second watch for that, so this should be fun. Until then, guys, you know what? Everybody love everybody. I hope everybody has a good week, and we'll see you next week for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.
Say bye. Say bye.